there's no place like home for the holidays. And no matter how far away you roam, if you pine for the sunshine of a friendly gaze, for the holidays you can.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another Stocking Stuffer. I'm Jeff Searcy.
I'm Jay Logston.
Well, Jay, you do anything spooky the last couple of weeks?
No, nothing too exciting's coming. I do kind of want to see Presents.
Yeah, I've been debating on that.
I think that's it. I Screamboat was supposed to come out in January, and I was gonna watch it, and then it got pushed back to like March or May.
Yeah,
and so other than like upcoming new things, like that was the thing I was probably most interested to see.
Well, I mean, as you probably know already, since this is coming out after that one, we did go see Hard Eyes and Companion.
Yeah, so go back to that one to listen to our thoughts on that.
Any thoughts, what you wanted to share more on those trailers, Jay, before we get into anything?
I'm really interested in Sinners. I think Sinners looks really, really cool.
I do as well. That was the one that really grabbed my attention the most. I mean, the monkey grabbed my attention, Jay, but it's because it's going to be hilarious.
Yeah, I'm excited to see the monkey. I think that might be a stocking stuffer somewhere down the road.
That's got to be a stocking stuffer. I mean, even Keo is interested in seeing the monkey.
Yeah,
Jay.
but the Sinner is that one was that look, or the Sinners looks so cool. I'm very interested in seeing that.
It's a very interesting setting for a horror movie. I mean, I like all the actors in it, so I think it's got a good chance of being. It could be like one of the best movies of the year.
And it's Ryan Coogler. Like I've not seen a bad Ryan Coogler movie. No, so
it's pretty good. Like everybody involved in it seems like they're pretty good. Like the cinematography and stuff in the trailer looked really good.
No, and it looks creepy as shit. Like what's up with those people? Are they demons? Are they vampires? Like.
Are they Wolfmans?
Yep. I don't think they're Wolfmans, sadly. Maybe someday.
Dog faces, I mean.
I know. I mean, we didn't mention. I was kind of disappointed. I didn't get to bring up that werewolves are your favorite thing. So like I think Wolfman was even more disappointing for you.
It was yes. If you don't care about werewolves at all, I don't think Wolfman would be as bitter to you. But it was just so disappointing for me because we haven't had a good werewolf movie in so long. I'm like, oh boy, this one looks really good, and then there's no Wolfman in it, Jay.
Yep.
Where's the Wolfman?
That was something that as I was editing, I was like, oh, we didn't bring up that, like, no, Jeff's especially bad about this. Like, we talked about how much we disliked it, but we didn't go in, like, we did reiterate. It's like, it would be like a Simon Phillips movie without Simon Phillips in it. I'd be furious.
There's so much missed potential. That's the thing that hurts me the most about it. It's like, this could have been so cool if they'd included a Wolfman.
Yep, not some kind of weird dog face guy.
I've got disease, I guess, that makes me kind of wolf-like, but not really.
But Woman in the Yard, a movie that you and I made a joke about when you first told me about it.
Old Lady in the Yard.
I think I posted, I'm like, can't take a swim in the pool because there's ghosts in it. Yeah. Can't go into the yard because there's a creepy woman there. Like, what can you do in the Blumhouse?
Apparently nothing, Jay. Can't, because there's people in the walls. You can't be safe in your own room.
Yeah.
Also, that Blumhouse logo, I feel like it keeps getting more elaborate every time they make a movie.
It feels like the Marvel Disney movie like logo, but for like horror movies. We did. I did see a trailer for Drop. That was one that you had mentioned. I'd forgot to. I am more interested in Drop now than I was when you first mentioned Drop.
Yeah. No, it has potential. I think it's another one where I'm gonna just kind of wait and see.
Yeah,
but I'm cautiously optimistic, and I have to be cautiously optimistic now because of the Wolfman and other disappointing movies. Honestly, Hard Eyes kind of disappointed me too.
Yeah.
Not because of anything in it that was particularly bad, just because of what we could have imagined. I think you and I, if we'd been given the Hard Eyes script and the money, we probably could have made a better version of that movie.
Yep. No, that was, I think that was my biggest kind of thing, was I was like, there's a good movie here, there's just not enough of the good movie in the movie. For Hard Eyes. Anyway.
Anyway. Well, Jay, you never really understand what you're going to be interested in, apparently, or what's going to, excite you until you see it. And thinking about Sinners really got me wondering, are there any good, cool horror stories from the South? And I'm like, there's got to be some.
Oh, we did the Bell Witch a while ago.
Yes. I was like, we've done a couple. We talked about a couple. I mean, obviously, there's the southern version of the werewolf, the Rougarou.
Oh, yeah.
People tell you about that on the bayou, Jay. You better be careful.
I don't watch out for damn Rougarous. Shug.
I mean,
that's how.
Well, this is a good place to start off. What do you know about Southern horror?
Not a whole lot. A lot of the stuff. A lot of ghost stories. I know. I've, as someone who watched a lot of ghost hunters and stuff, when they would go to old plantations and shit and see stuff.
Yes, a lot of ghost stories tied to the slavery era.
I also know A Haunting in Connecticut, Ghosts of Georgia is a movie. Which, how can it be a haunting in Connecticut if they're the Ghosts of Georgia?
I was going to say, it sounds like they probably should have changed that name.
They could have just called it A Haunting in Georgia and just been it's part of the A Haunting in universe, but instead they had to call it A Haunting in Connecticut too, Ghosts of Georgia.
Well, I did manage to find one story. It's about a guy named Earl LeBlanc.
Okay. That sounds like a guy. That sounds like he'd hang out with Remy LeBeau.
Yes. I was like,
in the Thieves Guild.
That was I was like, if I was looking for a guy from Louisiana named Earl LeBlanc, would probably be one of the ones that would spit out of a random name generator.
Yep.
But so the story I've got for you today is something I was skeptical of. I was like, can this really be true? But there are actually multiple corroborating accounts of this story. So at the very least, something happened here. It wasn't just completely fabricated.
Okay.
So Earl LeBlanc had lived in the Louisiana Bayou longer than most people around could remember. He was knowledgeable of the land, the water. He could always tell you when rain was coming. He'd be like, I could smell it. He knew all the backways through the swamp that he learned from his grandfather, who apparently used to run moonshine and learned a lot of trails and made some of his own trails to avoid the police.
His old grandpappy.
Yes. His grandpappy, Jay. He made White Lightning instead of Mountain Dew. But
ooh, White Lightning.
He had heard stories growing up, lots of different stories. There's a deep-rooted voodoo culture because of Jamaican slaves being brought to that area by the French, and that kind of Creole culture that mixes all those different elements together into what people like. The stereotypical Louisiana guy is you're probably thinking of a Creole guy,
right?
But he had heard stories about different spirits and monsters living in the swamp. One of the big ones that he was interested in was the Rougarou, like we talked about. But one night he saw something he could not explain. So it was silent, which was his first clue that something was really going on, because the swamp is never silent.
Right.
Unless something is going on. He couldn't hear any frogs, couldn't hear any crickets, didn't even hear any usual sound of alligators coming in and out of the water. He said it was the kind of silence that presses in on you. It made the hairs on his arms stand up. He felt like he was being watched. And then he started to see a strange ripple move across the water. He was out in his boat. He was doing crawfish trapping at the time. So he said at first it was a disturbance, like something big swimming, but then it rose. Black, glistening, shapeless, shifting almost like it couldn't decide what it wanted to be. It had no face, just two deep, empty pits where eyes should have been. I sat there frozen. The thing lifted a long, spindly arm from the water. The fingers looked kind of like the roots of a cypress tree. And then I could have sworn I heard a low whisper say, Earl. He's like, I couldn't even catch my breath. The voice chilled me to my soul. It sounded like my brother. My brother, you see, had drowned in that very bayou when we were children. He'd fallen off the boat while we were going with my grandfather, and something had pulled him under, and we'd never been able to recover his body. So at that point, I panicked, and I started to rock the boat, almost tipping myself sideways, and I tripped over the edge and fell in the water. And he said he was afraid he was going to get grabbed by this thing, so he swam towards shore, and he could hear voices sounding like his mother and his father and his grandfather calling after him to come back.
Ooh.
He ran all the way back to his cabin, and he didn't hear the whispers anymore, but he could almost feel like something was still watching him. And he never slept. He basically just sat in his recliner with his shotgun across his lap until the sun came up. He went back in the morning, and he took a couple of his friends with him, and there was no sign of this thing, no whispering, but he could swear almost that he still felt like this off presence, and his friends did corroborate that they felt like whatever area they were in was almost wrong in a way. Like they weren't able to corroborate the creature itself, whatever it might have been, spirit, whatever it was. But they said they definitely felt like something weird had gone on there, and they were not comfortable staying in that location.
Which, I would assume it's kind of that feel, you walk in a place, just your intuition or whatever. Like, you can tell when something like doesn't feel right.
Yeah. Oh no, I think we all definitely had that feeling.
Yep.
You get that. It's something deep in your like primitive brain telling you there's danger here, something's going on.
Yep.
That is a very interesting feeling too. So that was one of the ones I found, and I was like, that seems like because I was like, some of the ones I found were like obviously just fake stories with like way over exaggerated stuff. Mm-hmm. But it's like, I don't know, seeing something weird in the swamp or whatever, and then your friends being like, yeah, this does seem weird. I don't like this.
Right.
I mean, that seems plausible to me.
Yeah, and it's just kind of weird enough where you kind of like, I don't know, it could just be whatever, but like, what does he gain by lying about it? Like a lot of times it's like, people are looking for fame or fortune from these.
Yeah.
I think Amityville was proven to kind of be a hoax, and the dad was kind of looking to make a quick buck or whatever. Like, I think that's kind of been proven over the years, and it's like, which sucks because it's a real interesting story, and it's real fun, and it's a good movie.
Yeah.
And it's like, but like, okay, he was trying to make money, where it's like, what does he get? What does Earl gain by telling this story? Like,
that's kind of what my thought was, is one of the reasons I picked that one, because it's like, this isn't getting anybody rich or famous or whatever.
Right, like he's not doing tours of the haunted bayou.
And he didn't even post this. It was one of his grandkids, actually, that put this story online, because people were asking questions on Reddit about it or whatever.
I always love those. There's one I read a while ago, and I don't have the story in front of me, but the guy was like, I was out hunting, and he's like, I have a hunting dog, and I usually go and kind of position my camp up in the middle of the night or whatever. And I'd built a fire, and I always like attach a bell to my dog's collar, and it goes, so that way I kind of know when it's coming and going.
Yeah.
And it'll run off, and it'll come back. And it's like, and I was just kind of hanging out, chilling at the camp, whatever. And it was getting dark, and it was, and I was kind of sitting there. The campfire was coming in low, or it was starting to die down. And he's like, and I'm sitting there, and he's like, and I start hearing like the ringing of the bell on my dog's collar, and he's like, I'm looking around, and I go to call it back, and up runs my dog, and doesn't have the bell attached. And he's like, and the bell just continued to like ring.
Oh.
And he's like, and I grabbed my dog, grabbed my gun, and went in my truck and locked the doors. And we sat there all night until.
Yeah. I mean, I could imagine. That's,
Every time I see stories, I'm just like,
I don't
know.
Like,
I got to read these. And of course, I always wind up like reading them at like, 11 p.m.
Yes.
And then I can't fall asleep because I read all these creepy stories like that people tell.
That was. Yeah, I don't know if I could cope with that. I'd be like, all right, well, we're leaving. Goodbye.
Right.
You can have the camping gear. I guess we'll come back another year maybe. So I was like, that sent me down kind of a rabbit hole. I'm like, I wonder if I can find any other Louisiana horror stories. Well, apparently there is a swamp called Blackwater Swamp in Louisiana that has a lot of horror stories associated with it.
Okay.
What do you know about hellhounds, Jay?
Not much.
They used to. It used to be a popular thing that if you made a deal with a demon at a crossroads, which is also a Southern thing. I'm assuming you've heard about the Robert Johnson story.
That's the guy who could play the guitar.
The bluesman who supposedly sold his soul to the devil at the crossroads,
Yes.
and then made songs about it afterwards.
And then only lived to 30 something or whatever.
He's part of. I think he was part of the 27 Club, which is why people say that all those people made deals with demons to be popular, and they all died at 27. Which there is a large list of famous musicians who've died at 27.
Right, it's pretty wild.
But apparently, one of the things that let him know his time was almost up was hearing hellhounds in the distance, which I know they have done that in Supernatural. That's a demon deal type thing.
I loved the way they kind of did that too, that you couldn't see them. It was just you could hear them, and then you could see the damage they did to the people. I thought that was a neat way to do it without, the CGI would have looked, especially for a CW show, the TV, CGI would have looked terrible.
It would have been bad. But so down in the bayous of Louisiana, there's a stretch of swamp called Blackwater. People describe the air there as thick. The cypress trees lean in like they're almost whispering to each other. And a lot of stories exist about the swamp, but not usually ghost stories. There's a lot of dog and wolf stories that come out of that area. And the dogs are never described as normal. They're always big. They're always pitch black, like midnight black, and they always have burning eyes. This particular story has been passed down since plantation. There was a plantation owner there named Beaumont LaSalle, which if there was a plantation owner named Jay, I'm pretty sure it'd be Beaumont LaSalle. Right. People can't pin down exactly when this story started being told, but as close as you can narrow it down, about 1815 seems to be the first actual written down version of this story.
Okay.
He was a particularly cruel plantation owner. He had a pack of hunting dogs he would set loose on runaway slaves. He starved them to make sure that they would do their job. Great dog owner.
Oh, yeah.
People used to say that the dogs were demons in fur, and he would ride after on his horse, but not fast enough to actually catch up to him because he loved to listen to the dogs rip people up.
Disgusting.
Yeah. But apparently one night things didn't go as planned. A storm had rolled in. It was like a thunderhead off the Gulf of America.
Jesus
now, Jay.
Christ.
That's outdated Gulf of Mexico. But apparently a huge thunderstorm rolled in. It could have, at the time, people may not have classified it as a hurricane, but it could have been.
Right.
There's when you're on the ground in it, there's probably not really an easy way to tell the difference.
And especially probably back then.
But apparently it completely destroyed the plantation house with him and the dogs in it. And apparently a lightning strike had hit it after it had been blown mostly over, and then it had burned the rest of the way down. Which, a big surprise, Jay. The slaves and overseers in the outbuilding didn't rush to help this incredibly cruel man.
Oh, can't imagine why.
Yeah, I can't imagine either. So apparently he didn't just treat the slaves like shit. He also treated all of his employees like shit, too. So, which, you could see how that could extend. Anybody who's not you is beneath you type of guy. But people still reported for months afterwards seeing the dogs running the swamp. People reported hearing them growling, just out of sight. And if you turned, you might catch a glimpse of them, flashing across the path behind you. But they looked like they had been burned in the fire, and there was still fire in their eyes. So, fast forward to the 1960s, a fisherman named Teddy McGraw, another great Southern name. Yeah. He went missing near Blackwater Swamp. All they found was his empty boat, and on the muddy bank there were paw prints, really big ones, and a long, deep groove leading into the swamp cypress trees. And it looked like something man-sized had been drug in there. People looked for him for 3 days, couldn't find him anywhere. The tracks apparently just vanished about 25 feet into the tree line, including the drag mark. And basically from that moment on, the legend restarted because it had kind of died down. But like at that point, some grandparents were like, "Oh yeah, that was LaSalle's hounds dragging him away. He must have done something pretty bad." And apparently that's become like a local legend. You can take a tour down there, which is called the Hellhound Tour. That gives you a couple tours of the Blackwater Swamp area. But another similarity to the other story, apparently the swamp will go silent at times when people see these devil dogs.
Ooh.
Because even as 2021 was the last sighting I was able to find, was a couple of hikers there doing recording for a paranormal podcast, swore they were being stalked by one along the trail.
Creepy. I mean, we're not gonna go put boots on the ground.
No, we're not that crazy. You know, honestly, this is again something it's almost like hard to believe, but in another way, it's like if there was ever a place that was going to have vengeful spirits, I think the South would probably be that place.
Yep.
All the horrible things that have happened to people. I mean, not just during our own colonial times, but I'm sure stretching back a long time.
Well, you know, you always hear people talk about like how weird like Appalachia is, and
Yeah.
like all the weird stuff involved with that, and just the fact that like it is older than like a lot of like the rest of the continent, like it from the way Pangea was formed, like Appalachia was there before like America existed, kind of deal.
Yeah. There's a lot of weird Southern horror stories I've came across. The last one, though, have you ever heard about kudzu, Jay?
Yeah, that's the plant that kind of like the weed that kind of grows like crazy.
Creeping vine that goes over everything, basically. Well, apparently, people in southern Georgia and the part of Alabama that borders Georgia think that there is some kind of monster that lives in these plants.
Okay.
The only thing I was able to... no one has like a name for it. The only thing there's the kudzu monster. There's the thing in the kudzu. I've seen that referenced a couple times. But it doesn't seem to have any like particular name. But I mean, if you've ever been to the South, you've seen it. When I was traveling down through Georgia, we stopped at a Buc-ee's, which #1 Buc-ee's. Everyone loves it.
Love Buc-ee's.
But even the forest that was around outside the edge of the gas pumps was covered in this viney stuff.
Because it goes all over the trees. It goes all over the ground. Like,
yeah, some people who live in the South call it the vine that ate the South, basically.
Which, yeah.
But yeah, I believe it was an invasive plant to begin with, and it's just kind of dominated everything. But so this was actually a legend from an Alabama border town. I was able to find it supposedly occurred in 1954. Another great Southern name, Otis Rayburn.
That is a great Southern name.
So he lived by himself on the edge of town in a clapboard house, which I had to kind of look up what that was. Basically a plywood house.
Okay.
He had made like scavenging basically materials around town. And the front porch, people who knew him said that his front porch sagged in the middle like it was about to break, and it did that for about 20 years, and he never fixed it. So basically, if you're going on his porch, be very careful.
We all know the house.
Yep. But the kudzu had been creeping on his land for years, but he never took any. He didn't do a whole lot of yard maintenance. Otis wasn't that kind of guy, Jay. He was more of a sit on the porch and drink tea kind of guy.
My kind of guy.
Yeah, I was gonna say a couple of Jay and Jeff type guys. But apparently, he used to go to the general store every week to get his supplies, and then he would go home. So when he didn't show up, the owner of the store, Mark, which is not a very good Southern name.
Yeah, Mark, come on.
Probably a carpetbagger. Anyway, he didn't show up to pick up because he had a standing order, basically. He got the same stuff every week. He didn't show up that Tuesday to get it, and so he decided to just drive out there and deliver the order to him because, he's a good customer.
Right.
And, might as well, if you could help him out. Because he was an older guy. He was in his late 50s, which at the time, especially doing the kind of hard work you had to do in the South to make money, he was probably pretty wore out.
Right.
But when he got there, he found the house half covered in vines, the front door wide open. Inside, everything was in its place, so it hadn't been like a robbery. The Radio was still playing. Dinner was sitting on the table, but Otis was nowhere to be found.
Creepy.
The only strange thing he was able to find was the back door frame was split cleanly down the middle, almost like something big had punched its way straight through the door. So he called the sheriff. The sheriff organized a search party because they thought maybe he had wandered off or whatever, because he had been known to get drunk before and have to be taken home by the sheriff, who would just drive him home basically and just let him go back to bed or whatever.
Right.
But the search party searched for 2 days, couldn't find any trace of him. The vines were thicker than they'd ever seen on the property. Apparently it was unnaturally thick enough for them to comment on it.
Okay.
And it had started to coil through the cracks in the house, like in the foundation and stuff, almost like it was trying to rip the house apart. And then the second night of the search, when they were getting ready to call the whole thing off and just declare him dead or missing, one of the searchers could have swore that he heard something moving in the vines, almost like a slow, slithering sound, and it was dragging itself through the underbrush and the leaves, almost like somebody was walking. He turned his flashlight towards the vines, and he could have swore his light caught a reflection of eyes in the vines staring back out at him.
Ooh.
He said that the eyes were deep set and hollow and almost glowing green color. So hearing this, the sheriff did, which I think you would want your sensible law enforcement to do. He burned all the vines on the property.
Yes, absolutely.
He said, I ain't taking no chances with this. And he's like, maybe burning down the vines would give us a trail maybe we could follow too. Maybe like his footprints, because apparently this stuff grows fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, like within a day or whatever, it could have covered up his footprints. But nobody ever found Otis, and no one ever could explain what that creature might have been. Then nothing like this ever happened again. And there basically was no explanation for this story. Just like a Southern story that circulates around.
Yeah, that's real creepy. I think sometimes those are the best stories. Are the ones where it's not like, like I said, like there's no money to be gained.
Yeah.
There's no
there's no like blockbuster movie here.
Right. It's just a creepy like local legend that like someone decides to share. Like either you have family and they told you the story, or like somebody decided to share online and you hear about it, years later. Like I think those are the best creepy stories. Like not the, like I said, not the ones where it's like, okay, yeah, obvious, whether the hellhound thing is true or not, like, oh, someone's selling a ticket for tours to like,
yeah.
But it's like, yeah, just something weird with like a missing person and some weird eyes and some just kudzu like needing to be burned down, like that's way creepier and way more interesting.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. I was like, that seems to be like the most compelling story I've found. But yeah, there's a ton. Maybe we can do another episode where we deep dive into a couple more of these Appalachian stories. Well, if you live there, Appalachian is the way they like to say it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, if we do have any listeners, yeah, tell us. I've heard all sorts of weird stuff about stuff going on there. I'd love to, if we have any listeners, get in touch. horrorfortheholidays@gmail.com. Send us an email or get in touch with us on social media. We are at horror4holidays. Horror for Holidays.
Indeed. YouTube.com/horrorfortheholidays. Hit the bell, hit the subscribe button, leave us reviews. Thank you to everybody who has been liking our videos. That helps put it in the YouTube algorithm.
Give us a review, subscribe, and give us a rating on your podcatcher of choice, 5 stars. Also helps boost the algorithm, helps people find the show. All those things. But most importantly, tell a friend, help if there's someone you think that would enjoy the dumb shit that Jeff and I do and talk about, tell them about it. The best way to spread word about a podcast is to tell other people.
Indeed, sir. But, Jay, did you know that there's a quiz you could take about this?
Oh, shit. All right. Well, let's do that.
Okay, here we go. So, Jay, you thought BuzzFeed was just full of useless quizzes, right?
Yeah.
Well, you might have been right. Today I have for you... Hold on, let me pull it up here. Oh, boy. So I'm going to have you choose horror movies, Jay, to pick what mythical horror monster you are.
Okay.
So here we go. Pick a slasher movie. Saw, Scream, I Know What You Did Last Summer, and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Is Saw really a slasher? All right, anyway.
I mean, kind of.
Yeah,
I would say probably
it's
not.
more like
really.
a splatter punk movie. Probably Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Texas Chainsaw, okay.
Speaking of Southern,
Yes, another good Southern horror story. Pick a creature feature, Jay. Jaws, Cujo, The Fly, or The Thing.
Oh, The Thing.
Yeah,
Easy.
I was going to say out of those, The Thing, definitely. Pick a movie about a haunted house, Jay. The Conjuring, The Woman in Black, The Grudge, or The Amityville Horror.
It's gonna be the Amityville Horror. Like people know my thoughts on the Conjuring universe.
It's amazing. Yeah, we all know. Pick a psychological thriller, Jay. Get Out, Smile, American Psycho, or Pearl.
Probably Get Out.
Yeah, that's a good one. Pick a found footage movie, Jay. As Above, So Below, The Blair Witch Project, Paranormal Activity, or VHS.
Ooh. I'm stuck between. Probably not VHS. I like the idea of VHS. I don't know that fits.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we were talking like Wreck, I'd say like Wreck. But let's say Blair Witch. It's the
classic.
yeah.
Gore movie, Jay. Jennifer's Body, Saw, The Evil Dead, or Hostel.
Well, see, they can't even keep their saws straight.
Yeah.
Also, like Jennifer's Body's more of a possession movie than.
Yeah, that's true.
So's Evil Dead. Like,
Yeah.
which I mean, I don't know. That's the thing. I'd rather put like evil. I'm gonna say. You know what? I'm gonna say Jennifer's Body. I was thinking about Jennifer's Body earlier today. I'm gonna say Jennifer's Body.
Okay, pick a body horror, Jay. Tusk, The Autopsy of Jane Doe, Teeth, or Videodrome.
Videodrome is really. Let's Autopsy of Jane. Once again, I think more of a possession movie, but Autopsy of Jane Doe.
Okay, Jay. Folk horror movie.
Okay.
Midsommar, The Watchers, Suspiria, or Tumbabad? Never heard of it.
No, Suspiria.
Suspiria.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Jay. What mythical creature do you think you are?
Bigfoot.
Nope, you're a goblin.
I mean, I am. It's got
These sneaky green-skinned tricksters often appear in Germanic and British folklore. They thrive on chaos and mischief, stealing shiny things and lurking in the shadows.
I mean, I am a goblin. I'm in my goblin mode phase.
All right, and our final quick quiz here, Jay. We're going to reveal which subgenre of horror matches your soul.
All right.
Bold claim, BuzzFeed.
Let's see if you can do it.
What was your favorite class in school, Jay? Science, art, English, or history?
Probably English.
English, okay. What's your favorite music genre? Rock, classical, pop, or rap?
I guess rock.
Which odd animal would you have as a pet, Jay? A robot dog. It's not an animal.
Nope.
Dragon, Pegasus, or dinosaur?
Weird. A dragon, I guess.
Okay. Which drink do you prefer, Jay? A milkshake, a coffee, a soda, or a water?
That's the thing. I mean, I'll say a milkshake. When I'm in the mood for it, like a milkshake is one of my favorite things.
Out of these options, which color do you like the most? Green, pink, brown, or yellow?
Green.
Green. Got a green guy. Favorite hobby, Jay? Writing, shopping, reading, or painting?
Recording a podcast with my buddy Jeff. Which one's that?
I believe that's under reading.
So what was it?
Reading, writing, painting, or shopping?
Reading.
My wife's is shopping. When do you wake up, Jay? Whenever I wake up, depends on the day. I always sleep in, or I don't sleep.
Probably depends on the day.
And finally, Jay, pick a photo that fits your aesthetic.
All right, we got some books. We got, I don't know, looks like maybe stars or something weird. We got a guy standing in front of with a torch standing in front of like a big door with an archway made out of what looks to be skulls, maybe. And we've got a gargoyle, maybe a dude that maybe the guy slayed Medusa. Maybe that's what that is. It's a dude holding a person's skull. Let's say, let's do the sculpture, the bottom right.
Bottom right, okay. Well, Jay, a lot of dark and ominous things go down in mythological tales, so you would be best suited to folk horror or mythological horror, including the Minotaur, Krampus, and the Ritual.
I mean, hey, they got something right.
They got close.
Yeah.
They got close. And with that, our mandatory quizzes for Jay are over, and so is the episode.
Yep. We'll see you next week. We're going to do Chris Massacre, a.k.a. the 2015 Secret Santa. It's been released with multiple names, but I believe streaming a lot of places as Chris Massacre currently.
Oh, boy. I bet it's going to be a fun one.
I enjoyed the trailer. We'll talk about it next week. In the meantime, thanks for listening.
Goodbye.
Bye.